Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Art of Creation show. I'm your host, Rebecca Boswell, and coach. And today I get to speak with Melanie Clampit, and she is the founder of Heart's Ease Wellness in California. She's actually speaking to us today from London. How did we get so lucky? And Melanie is, she's going to talk with us today on the topic of kindness and the generosity effect. So in case you think that a little more kindness or a little more generosity or a whole boatload of all of that could be a helpful thing, a useful thing, a required thing today and moving ahead with all of the wonderful things coming up in the next several months and years in our personal lives, in the world stage. What can we create today? So Melanie, I'm so excited to have you. Your list of where you draw your experience and tools from is so extensive. There will be a link to her website at the end so you can go and see all that. But just to let you know, we're talking coaching, we're talking massage therapy, we're talking Reiki master, we're talking theta healing, we're talking access consciousness certified facilitator, and a whole bunch more. So thank you for coming today and being willing to share with us what you know about this and how we can start incorporating it more into our daily lives with ourselves and with others.
You're so welcome, and thank you for that beautiful introduction. It's always so funny to, hear people talk about, the list of, of all the past lives that we have, the things that we've sort of accumulated along the way to get where we are.
Yes.
But thank you so much for having me and inviting me to this conversation. I'm excited to see where we go with it.
Yes. Well, I know, Heart's Ease, that seems to be sort of one of the pieces that that your ripples are radiating out from, at least in this experience. And so, I love this sense of it being, peace of mind, also the absence of the anxiety, the mental drain that can sometimes grab us in life. And I was wondering if we could even just start with this space of Heart's Ease Wellness, and kind of create the larger umbrella, and then kind of hone in from there.
Okay, great. So about a year and a half ago, I was looking for a business name. I did a kind of a business meeting with someone, and she said, well, you need to name your business. And I was like, how do I take everything that I do and put it into one name? So I started doing some research and synonyms for different names. And Heart's Ease is actually a flower. It's a pansy. So you'll notice my logo has the pansies. And Heart's Ease, actually, that's the meaning of it. It is peace of mind in the absence of mental stress, anxiety, all of that. I was so tickled to actually find it because, for me also beauty is so important. And aesthetics, and to me, part of, beauty and kindness are sort of linked together. Because when you see someone who really functions from a space of kindness, there is often an element, of an inner beauty. I think that people are recognizing. And part of the work that I do, as you mentioned, is the access consciousness work. And with the access bars process, we get to see that every day, in the lives of practitioners and people who are receiving it and gifting it to others, is that there really is the possibility for us to live with the absence of the stress and the anxiety. Or it's not that it doesn't exist, but you're with it in such a different way.
Yeah.
So, Heart's Ease, how often are we always say, we're really taking things to heart. So we have all of these lives, and they often center around that. So to have, ease with, with your heart. So there were a lot of different kind of meanings and pieces that went along with it.
Yeah. I just want to say hi and welcome to everyone joining live. Feel free to put questions in the comments if you have any questions along the way. We're so happy to have you here with us today and to join in. Melanie, you have shared before that that your life and your business, your life, your lifestyle, and your livelihood are all very much in communion, and that this heart's ease is not only an expression of what you do with others, but it's also an expression of what's going on with you in your, your state of being. And I love how you have expressed in the past that that is really something that you're constantly looking at. How to have this internal and external environment be in harmony, and to be able to invite others to that. But in that, you've also admitted that in the past, it wasn't so easeful or easy. So I'm just wondering, for those who are watching or who know people for whom this is true, where do we begin once we start to see this is possible? Great, we have a path. And how do we begin to start to access this and really start choosing toward it when things are not feeling easeful or things are feeling disconnected, and we have a lot of that anxiety or mental stress or things showing up?
Well, one of the things that I've noticed with, myself and with the people that I work with, is that it's this lack of congruency, between what we know is possible, even if we don't have a tangible idea or a form of what that is. And something's not matching. The inside's not matching the outside, or a desire we have, or something we know should be possible that just we don't. It's not showing up, or it's not a part of our lives. I would say the very first place to begin is probably with a question. The Access Consciousness tools made a really huge shift and change in my life. I actually discovered the tools because there was such a space of incongruency in my life, even with all of the other things that I had been doing. There was this level of something else is possible, and I can't continue to be, living in the world in this way. And I made a demand. I was talking to the universe, which is something that I've been doing for many years. And I just said, hey, you know what? This isn't working for me. You better show me something different. Now, the tools that I work with and that I share, I'll definitely share some of those, with you, with all of you listening. But there often aren't one set of tools for every person, right? So for me, I tried a lot of different things. And I'm constantly still in pursuit of what else is possible. Mm-hmm. And I haven't made myself just stick to one thing. And that's something I notice people to say, well, you're supposed to pick one thing and stick with it. It's like, what if you could actually get more playful with, the transformation, with the change, with shifting and changing these parts of your life that aren't working? We tend to kind of glump it all together. Everything isn't working, and it's actually usually a small choice that you can make that creates a huge ripple effect in your world. So asking a question, just even what would it take to change this, and actually asking it as a genuine question, is a big place to start. It seems so simple, right? But if we're not functioning from the space of judging ourselves and making our situation wrong, if we can be a little lighter about it and really be that space of, all right, something's not working in my life. Some things are, some things aren't. What would it take to change these things that aren't working? And then let go.
Yeah.
And you will get the information, right? It may not show up in that second. It may be on a sign on a bus that drives by you. Mm-hmm. It could be in a conversation you hear as you walk past someone. It could be in a book, a class, a conference. There's so many different ways that the information that you require to make the change that's going to work for you,
Yeah.
to get you that information. And, we're leading into kindness, right? But it takes a level of kindness for you and a level of allowance. And in Access Consciousness world, allowance is where everything is just an interesting point of view. So what if even the things that seem incongruent in your world right now, the things that don't seem to be working, those insurmountable obstacles, what if you can have allowance for all of it? What if you can be a space of kindness? And kindness and allowance, it doesn't mean that you're just okay with everything happening and you need to live with it.
Yeah.
But it gives you the space to be, interesting point of view. So allowance is where everything is an interesting point of view, right? So what if your problems are an interesting point of view? And all the reasons and justifications for why we think we cannot change it, what if all of those were just an interesting point of view? And what that allows us to do is have a space of kindness and generosity for us. So rather than like kicking yourself into the next phase of your life, what if you could actually have a space of kindness?
Yeah.
And it does take a level of generosity for you to offer that to yourself. And from my experience, every day isn't like that. It's a moment by moment experience.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like you find yourself in the depths of whatever, poo pile you created for yourself or you're in your world. And sometimes that seems bigger than you. And what if that can be okay? What
Yeah.
if you can give yourself the space to say, wow, today actually this seems unchangeable?
Yeah. So actually what I hear you saying, talking about really is about getting curious and not necessarily having to make it mean anything, but just be curious about it and then allow what information comes up. And again, not make that significant, but using it to then ask maybe another question or then see what else is possible. And
Exactly.
that piece about kindness, I think lots of times when we think of kindness, we think of it as something that we do and it becomes external, right? Like we do kindness to others or on others or with others.
Or we often misinterpret it as being nice.
And being, or yes, or being nice. Right. So can you share with us a little bit about what you're aware of in terms of really looking at kindness and where you can start it with yourself? It's like, yeah, I'll be nice to other people, and I might even learn kindness with others, but what you're saying is to really fully embrace the energies of kindness, we have to also include ourselves and to be kind with ourselves. So how did you, like, not how did you, but where, like at what point did this become the aha moment for you of like, wow, this is a key piece, and this is part of me making the demand for my future?
Oh, wow, that's a big question.
Yeah.
Well, first I would also invite, everyone who's listening to really begin to ask yourself the question, what is kindness for me? Because I don't know that there's really one definition. It's sort of like being you.
Yeah.
And someone says, well, what is being you? It's like, oh, wow, you just, there's an energy, there's a sense of it. And it's a little bit different for each one of us, I think. And for me, it's something that had to be pointed out to me, like, well, you're a really kind person. And I went, what do you mean I'm a kind person? It was very difficult to see who you are, right? So I think an aha moment for me was to stop and go, oh, I had no idea that this was kindness. So for me, part of it is the willingness to be present in your own world and be present to the world around you. Be willing to be aware of yourself and be aware of the world around you simultaneously. And for me, what I've noticed is when I am that awareness and I drop all of my barriers and I'm willing to engage, I'm willing to receive, I'm willing to gift without any judgment, that I am naturally looking to create more in that moment. more something greater. If something's required, I know what it is and I do it without thinking. A moment that comes to mind, it was my first Access Consciousness certified facilitator class, and I was in Australia. It was like this first big trip on my own, and I was laying out in the ocean, and I just visualized myself in the ocean there and back home, and just I felt in communion with everything, with the entire planet, every molecule, every person, with my life at home, with the future that I was creating, and being present with the ocean there. And I walked out and I was sort of, people will call it kind of spacey, but there just was no thought, right? And it was just this presence and walking up the beach. And as I walked up, I just started to pick up paper and plastic and different things I found on the ground, walking up toward where I was heading. I didn't think about it. And there was no point of view, people shouldn't be littering and I should pick this up. And there was no point of view that went along with it. And I put the things in the trash and I kept walking, and something kind of stopped me in that moment. And I realized, like, that's actually a space of living from a space of kindness. And from my point of view, when we're truly being us and we don't have those thoughts, feelings, and emotions that right, wrong, good or bad, the judgment, then we're actually free to be who we really are in that present moment, looking around us, going, what else is possible? What? And it's not really a cognitive thing from my point of view. That's who we are.
Yeah.
So in choosing to, if you are someone listening to this and you're like, well, I would like to include, more kindness in my world, there's an expansion exercise that's really amazing. And so expanding out as big as the planet, out through the planet, as big as the universe, allowing yourself to be all that space, dropping those barriers to gifting and receiving with the world around you. For me, there's a space there to explore kindness. And you could ask, if I were truly being kind to me today, what would I choose? If I were truly choosing to be kindness walking through the world, what would I choose? Because what if there's really no answer? It's really, like you were saying, this curiosity and an exploration of, well, what is this? When you ask the universe for anything, you will always receive it. Whether or not you notice it and you actually let it in, the universe delivers. So if you would like to know more about kindness, what would it be like to just ask the consciousness, of everything, of the universe, what is kindness? Show me, universe.
Yeah.
Show me what that is. Show me what is. And from my point of view, it's difficult to give kindness when you don't actually have it for you first.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're asking, it's really neat to see where you are shown your special capacities with kindness. Because, we all are one, and we may have different capacities with different energies. That show up in very different ways. So my capacity with kindness can actually look very different than your capacity with kindness.
Exactly.
And yet they're still contributing to this energy and this space of kindness in our worlds and in the world and beyond. And when we don't have, I love this when you're talking about, this kindness for you, really like this sense of kindness for, our being, how we're showing up, what we're creating. It's like, if you are known for being the Scrooge, and you have all the stuff, right? And you don't share and you're greedy and you keep it all to yourself, what is the kindness there? And it's sort of like we can also look at it in that same example. If you're actually keeping all of you bottled up or locked away or hidden, and not actually giving that gift of you in the world in those capacities, and being that there's actually a miserliness of being, whereas we can have that generosity of spirit, and that's from what I hear you saying, that's where we begin to really tap into that space of kindness.
Yeah.
And it
And
could,
it is,
yeah, go ahead.
well, and for me, there's a gentleness with yourself that comes with it. Um, and it doesn't mean that you don't become aware of the things that you don't like about you, because that's, part of, for me, part of that exploration of kindness with myself has been the willingness to actually be with the parts of me
Yeah.
that I don't appreciate, right?
Yeah.
That I've judged.
Yeah.
And having a level of kindness for me to also say no,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
To end a bad relationship with, someone who's, really, really judgmental or abusive or any of that.
Yes.
And people think like, oh, kindness is easy. Kindness is not usually the easy choice. Staying present in your life and present with what's going on in the world
Yeah.
can be one of the most challenging things that we face in our lives,
Yeah.
right? And from my point of view, so much of the suffering is us cutting off our awareness of what
Yes.
we do not want to see, what we're unwilling to be aware of, what's just, we've decided it's too much.
Yes. Yeah.
And we cannot receive it. So kindness is actually a much bigger conversation than sort of a self-help affirmation.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that,
Yes.
either. But for me, I'm like, wow, she's in consciousness and she seemed to be a space of kindness in the world, especially when there's so much to reject.
Yeah.
I was thinking the other day about this. I was married in my late 20s and early 30s for about 5 years. And when we chose to separate and divorce, one of the choices we made is that we were not going to stop loving and having that kindness for each other. And what we really noticed was how much easier it was to get angry and push away, because then we weren't present. We weren't actually being with what was really going on for him or for myself. And we really made that demand of ourselves and each other, but really was ourselves. We each, chose it and committed to it. And it wasn't the easy choice, getting angry, doing the trauma and drama was much easier, even though it's much more angst inducing.
Yes.
And then actually being really present with ourselves, continuing to choose toward what we knew was creating a greater future, which was not being together,
Yeah.
while not using separation as a way to do that.
Yes.
And just the other day, I was thinking like, wow, I'm really like proud of him and proud of me for what we were able to do there. So what I took from that was, it wasn't the easy choice, but it was a choice. And that's the only thing that made that happen. We didn't have any amazing tools to be working with, except our superhero capacity, right? Which is our capacity to choose. And we chose and chose and chose and chose and chose over and over again. We would notice ourselves starting to separate, or one of us would start to get angry. We would just stop. And it was kind of amazing, I'm really grateful that I was able to be with someone who could do that,
Yeah.
with me. So what if so much of what we're talking about with kindness, generosity, all of it is first recognizing that it's something that you choose, that it's not something you're just born with. Right? It's easy to look around. It's been easy for me to look around the world and go, gosh, well, that person, it just seems so easy for them. Or, gosh, they've been like that since they were kids. I wasn't like that as a kid. I could be a little hellion as a kid. And stop and go, what if these aren't just things that we're born with and then that's it? What if you can choose and cultivate kindness in your world, with you, with your body, with the people you are, in relationship with how we choose to engage in the world? And that's really the first element, I think, is one, realizing that it is a choice,
Yeah.
and choosing and going, hey, I'm gonna have this. I'm going to have this. And what the heck is it anyway? And to stop looking around you for what it looks like in everyone else's world, like you were saying before, it shows up so different for each one of us.
Yeah.
But you can have a room full of people who are very different, who function from a space of kindness, and it's going to look different for every person. But there's a quality of energy there that, for me, gives a sense of warmth and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say inclusion, including you, and also, including others around you.
Yeah. And that really is a key aspect, when I look at this, that sense of inclusion, right? And like true kindness really is where the barriers are down, not just between myself and with you or us and others, but also
Mm-hmm.
like within ourselves, like where we're actually willing to go in those dark corners, to not disassociate, right?
Mm-hmm.
To actually choose to respond what to our environment, to maybe the sensations, the fight or flight going on in our body, and actually choose instead of just reacting and cutting off and blocking out or smoothing over, but really including all of us, and even the wonky, odd shaped, stinky, slimy, squirmy bits, right?
Right, exactly. Well, and that's why I'm so grateful, to on the Access Consciousness tools. You were kind of going through some of the past modalities, that I went through all of them myself, looking for change. And then I would learn them because I'm that kind of person. Once I find something that gives me even a little bit of shift, change, light, sense of possibility, I want to learn it and share it with as many people as I could.
Mm-hmm.
But with the Access Consciousness tools, these were some of the only ones that actually gave me a tangible way to actually be with all of it, rather than just constantly fight and sort of get locked in with it. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So, I mentioned allowance, an interesting point of view. So the more that I've practiced including more, and there are still some things that I find are very difficult for me to include. There are particular energies, and something I've been looking at over the last couple of months, actually, some particular energies that I've been spending some time around in a lot of areas of my life that are some of the most challenging bits for me to be with. And first of all, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that it's showing up, because it's indicating to me now where I can point these amazing tools and not just go like kind of fiddle around and look at this stuff. I can actually go, all right, this is something I'm unwilling to receive. I have a big old resistance and reaction to this. So now what? So when you find somebody's pushed your button, what do? And for me, an amazing tool is interesting point of view, that I have this point of view. And it can be one of the more challenging tools, because we really like our points of views. Like, we're pretty attached to those. And we feel like we have a sense of righteousness about it often. I know that comes up for me. Like, no, this is right. This is the good way. Kindness is better than anger. It's like, well, what if kindness isn't better than anger? What if it's just one of the choices we have available? Right? It's just a choice. Every single one of us is constantly in these spaces of making choices. What if we don't have to reject one to choose the other? And I'm
Yeah.
just going to say that one more time, because that's kind of a big one. What if we don't have to reject one thing to choose another? What if we don't have to reject the unhappiness, the whatever that is, like fill in the blank, we all have those. What if you don't have to reject it in order to choose something else? And one of the best ways I've found to sort of neutralize the energy is to let it come up, right? Because in a lot of modalities say, okay, now be with it, be with it, be with it. And then you're sort of kind of stuck with it a little bit sometimes. So this one, you're there and you're like, all right, here's the energy, being with it. And then you say to the energy, interesting point of view, that I have this point of view. interesting point of view that I have this point of view. So for everyone who's listening to this right now, just imagine a conversation you had with someone recently, or something you saw in the news, or a particular energy that's difficult for you to be with or up in your life, and bring that up in your world and kind of put it out in front of you. And then say to that energy, interesting point of view that I have this point of view. And say it, 10 times, 20 times, however many times you need to say it until you notice it start to shift, change, and dissipate. And you can also say, interesting point of view, I have this point of view that you have this point of view. Interesting point of view, I have this point of view that you have this point of view. Interesting point of view, I have this point of view that you have this point of view. And it will help to take the charge off. And it's that charge, that negative and positive polarity that's dissipating. But that's the charge that holds and locks you out of choice, right? Those judgments, that polarity locks it into your world. And it creates that place of resistance and reaction where, for me, that feels like no choice. All of a sudden, you're reacting before you're thinking, before you feel like you can even make a choice. And the beauty of this is that once you start practicing this interesting point of view tool with it, and I don't say it out loud to people, do it in your head or do it when you're by yourself. You can bring up the energy, just think about it. So instead of, you have those interactions with people, and then you go home and then you think about it, you think about it, you think about it, and I should have said this, and if I could, I would say that. And so rather than using your energy to sort of head trip about it, what if you took that time to use that interesting point of view tool and see what else might be possible? And what I've noticed is that as soon as I can catch it, maybe it's 15 minutes later or a day later or moments afterwards, you start to remember to address it sooner and sooner and sooner. The more you practice this, right? Yeah. The more you just keep choosing it. And finally, you start to get to this sweet spot where that button gets pushed, and then you go, oh, there's that button. Like, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind. And then that button actually doesn't exist anymore. And
Yeah.
then you are free.
Yeah.
And then you can choose to get angry if you like or not, but it's a choice. It's not a reaction.
Yeah.
It's a response.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. And then when we look at this in terms of the generosity effect, right? So we're talking, so I love this tool because it's a great way to see where we're judging, get out of the judgment, to be the space, to have the choice. And
yes. And I just add one little piece there.
Yeah.
It's like what I've noticed with choosing and asking more about kindness, because I'm still learning every day, right? About what that is for me and what that is to walk through the world and choose it and be it.
Yeah.
But if I'm in reaction and I'm not really truly in choice, I notice those are the moments when I don't function from what I call kindness.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
So if I'm reacting, it's typically not kind.
Yeah.
Even if I'm reacting, kind of smoothing things over and being like, no, it's fine. Everything's fine. It's good. No problem.
Yeah.
That is also a reaction that we don't usually recognize that, but that's not necessarily kind. The kind thing may actually be to say, you know what, get lost.
Yeah. Right. Politeness, being nice, those things are not necessarily have a direct correlation
No,
with
it's not
kindness.
always right. It's not always a response. It's often a reaction rather than that presence of seeing what it is, being aware of what your choice creates, and choosing how you would like to respond.
Yeah.
Just very different. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, and it's a brilliant distinction, especially, when we use the words that we're using, it can seem like such an easy conversation, like just be kind,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And yet we're sort of talking around it in a lot of ways to really, point at not just the words that seem so easy or that seem so easy for our brains to latch onto and say, oh yeah, I get it. But like really pointing to the energy that's underneath there, and then, and, you know, infused in everything, ourselves included, so that we can actually have access. So it's not that, it's not like, you know, kindness is out there and maybe we'll get it or maybe we'll learn it. It's like, no, it is. And
It, yes.
are we willing to tap into our way of being it?
Right, exactly. And
Yeah,
it takes courage. It takes courage to function from a space of kindness. Because again, there's a level of presence
yeah,
and inclusion. Um, that's like graduate level stuff.
yeah. I mean, even as a parent,
Yeah.
you know, I see it sometimes, right? I mean,
Hmm.
I wouldn't have
Yes.
originally thought that, like, we're going to go to bed now. Like, now it's going to be bedtime.
Yeah.
And the kids don't like that all the time, right? And yet there is a kindness. There is this sense of like, I'm not choosing for you. And yet, like, when you can really tap in, it's like I can see, like, the toothpicks are like trying to keep your eyes open, right? And there's like a sense of really not, being, in a space that where they feel good. And it's like, no, this is actually, let's go and transition into this. It may not be what you're asking for at this time, and yet everything about your body is asking. And so I'm going to acknowledge that. And it is a kindness, even if it's not what you think you want at that moment, right? The next morning when you wake up and you're refreshed and in great spirits and energized, it was actually a greater kindness than to just, you know, um, start a movie at midnight or whatever, just because, your 9-year-old wants it or whatever. Anyway, long story
Yes. Well,
short,
yes.
you know,
Kindness isn't necessarily about giving people what they say they want.
yeah, right.
It's often, choosing to be aware of what people can receive,
Yes,
and what they, require in those 10 seconds.
yes,
So kindness in a relationship doesn't always show up as, you doing everything that they're asking you,
yeah,
asking you to do or be or whatever for them. But, you actually, being present and aware of what that choice is going to create for you and them,
yes,
is sometimes,
yes.
the kinder choice.
So that,
Or not making that remark, or, there's a lot of little pieces.
so I mean, that's a really big piece too, from my point of view, is, tapping into what is going to create greater, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because that can be the difference between, I've decided this is what should happen, and so I'm going to make you do it, and I'm going to control it. That's one way,
Yeah.
right? And that's actually not what I'm talking about. Although if you could look at it in that way, just from the like linear perspective of what it maybe looks like as it plays out. But what I'm really talking about here is tapping into the energy, and like you said, really looking at, okay, but what is required here, and what's going to create the greatest. And so for people who
Yeah.
are just starting with, looking at that,
Mm-hmm.
what is something that you could invite them to play with to start, even like, where do you begin tapping into an energy, if right, if this is
Well,
something that you're new to and you're used to controlling? I know you said ask a question. That's the first.
that's a big one. Yeah, I'm like that. That's a whole. That's like a whole subject over on its own, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's. This is. I mean, I think this is great. It's like we're diving in. We're sort of cracking this open and pulling the threads out of it. But for someone, even what you were just saying, it really comes back again to asking questions, right? If I were truly being kind here, what would I choose?
Yeah.
Right? And that can go in every situation, right?
Beautiful.
With you, with others. And, what if you could actually start practicing kindness, with yourself first? It starts to get some hairy territory when we start bringing other people into it,
Yeah.
being kind to others. But what I've noticed is that when I am truly caring, nurturing, and have kindness for myself and my choices and how I'm choosing to create my day and my moment, it spills out into the world around me. And then I'm less controlling and I'm not attached to what everyone else does because I'm actually taking care of me.
Yeah.
Right? Part of kindness from myself is going, all right, I'm really aware of where, let's say, person that you're with, your partner. I'm really aware of what they desire, what they would like to be doing right now, what they like me to be doing right now. I'm aware of it. And kindness for me is being aware of what they desire, looking at what I can deliver, and are there other choices that I need to make for me? Yeah. So, what am I aware of here is a great question.
Yeah.
What am I aware of here? Or I'm aware of this other person's requirements, desirements, needs of me.
Yeah.
Okay, there they are.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a level of kindness, being with somebody too. What do they require? All right, well, there it is. All right, what's going on for me over here? What do I require here? And the willingness to, to say no to someone else. But it keeps coming back to just asking a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is when you're looking at what's required, it could be that that it's a requirement that can actually be met. It maybe doesn't have to be met by you, right? Like, it's like if I'm willing to be aware of what's required here, it may not even be something, that, that is from me. It may actually be something that they require with themselves or with another person, or that we don't have to assume that we just have to create in their reality.
Right. Which we typically do, right? We're typically, and I know for myself, some of the most unhappy times of my life were where I felt that, well, I wasn't aware I was doing it, of course, but constantly living as a reaction to other people's realities. I had no idea where my reality was, what my reality was. I was just in constant reaction to everyone else's realities around me. And part of choosing kindness for me was to go, what is my reality? And if I were choosing my reality today, what would that be?
Yeah.
And you have yours and I have mine, and I'm not responsible for this. When I become aware of like, oh, this is this other person's reality and what they would like me to be for them, or whatever that might be, it's like, all right, what if we don't have to do anything with what we're aware of?
Yeah.
And again, when you have that space of kindness for you, you're willing to look at what you actually desire for yourself, even if it's different from other people around you, even people who are quite close to you. The willingness to allow them to be unhappy with me if they are.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, okay, that's all right. You want to be unhappy? Well, I'm going to go for a walk in the park, or I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do to care for and nurture myself, not from separating, but from, it's just choice again.
Yeah. And even, you're talking about, if I go for a walk or whatever, it's not, like you said, it's not a separation. It's actually just, I can even perceive all the other questions that are going into that. Like, what would actually create more space here? So it doesn't mean a space between you. It's actually a space so that something can change.
It's really just like, if I were truly being kind for me, what would I choose?
Yeah.
And it's just, there's a lot less thinking that we have to do with it. So that's part of why I keep going back to asking a question. If not, we start doing the whole figuring out thing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm locked up with dealing with everyone else's thing.
Yeah.
When it's really like, all right, where am I?
Yeah.
Where am I in all of this? And for me, just asking that question is a choice for kindness toward yourself. The willingness to stop and go, what's true for me here? What would I like to choose? Like, what's really going to work for me? And that's something that unfortunately not a lot of us do.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty uncommon.
Yeah. Well, and when just the words, right? The generosity effect, right? I just picture this, like the ripples then, like the drop and then the ripples moving
Hmm.
outwards. And
Yes.
it really is, for me, the way I perceive it, it is that thing of, when we start with our capacity to be kind with ourselves, to know, to know ourselves, warts and, wrinkles and the wonderful aspects all, that, we are able to gift more of what we be in the world, get to create more in the world. We get
Hmm.
to, co-create more in the world. Um, and then that has the ripple effect out to others who then also are invited to step into that in their own way. So,
Right.
is there anything
It's,
else you can add to how you perceive the generosity effect?
well, it's funny, the generosity effect, there's actually a lot to that. But in the context of this conversation, you know, for me, generosity and kindness, like they're very much intertwined. Having a generosity of spirit and kindness is very closely related. But what I've noticed is, like, when we choose that, it's the actions that we take, but it's also whenever you choose to be that level of kindness or generosity with yourself or with the people in your life, there is an energy and a space and a consciousness that vibrates out, that ripples out from you.
Yes.
No matter if you go out and anyone sees it, or you go and work for a charity or whatever that might, those very kind of tangible things.
Mm-hmm.
When we, from my point of view, each time we make a choice toward kindness, even a little effort toward, like, asking the question, if I were truly being kind with me today, what would I choose? You've opened up a possibility not only for you, but for the world,
Yeah.
right? It's like, what if there are these quantum
Yes.
entanglements, these spider
Yes.
webs that go through and connect to everyone? And the way spider web works is, if you tickle it over here, it vibrates out and it's felt by the entire web.
Yeah.
So if we would like to have greater kindness in the world, I think the greatest choice that we can make is to actually choose to be it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there is no answer for what that is, but the invitation to begin asking,
Yeah. Yeah.
what what is it? What is kindness? What would a kinder, gentler, more generous world be like? Okay, well, that's great. The world is like that. But if you were a kinder, gentler, more generous you, what would that be like?
Yeah. Be the
Right?
change.
Be the change. It really keeps kind of coming back to that, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's
You
that
know, it,
tuning fork effect. It's just, even being out in the world, the energy that you're being can also have the effect, not just, like you said, the tangibles.
right. And then it's like, it's not one or the other, but how did we get so lucky that, our choices for kindness and generosity in the world, there are people, and I've heard them say it, like, tell me I'm naive, or I had someone actually say to me once, I don't know if you're just naive or insane.
Oh,
The
yeah.
point of view is, and I went, oh,
Oh,
okay, well,
thank you.
thank you for your judgment. Like, all right, well, that was good information. All right. But realizing, we talk about being different a lot, right? Um, be different, be the change. Well, we're being willing to have points of views, to actually say, you know what, actually, my choice to function from kindness in my life, with me, with as much as possible, to function from that space of generosity, has an effect on the world. Not just the people that I'm coming in with the people I'm coming in contact with, yes, but the world. Like, that is pretty darn different,
Yeah.
right? Also, not believing, but knowing that kindness on the planet is a choice. It's not like just a woo-woo thing that we need, that exists out there, that we need to find. We are it. We
Yeah.
are creating the world. There is no outside of us. There is us, and the choices that we're making, and the energies that are evoked in the world are evoked by us. We are the ones, right?
Yeah.
So it takes the crazy ones, the naive, insane ones, the
Yeah.
weird ones, to be willing to say, well, all right, well, you go ahead and do your thing, but I'm going to go do my thing. I'm going to let my freak flag fly, and knowing that, to not like lose hope,
Yeah.
and for a lot of people, they see things going on in the world and that becomes bigger and more real,
Yeah.
right? The energy of kindness is soft and it's not loud,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it can seem less real sometimes,
Yeah.
than the more trauma and drama in the world. So I would also invite people, when you start to choose kindness, you're going to start to see more kindness in the world
Yeah.
and more beauty. Whatever you ask for, you will start to notice more and more and more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And boy, if we had enough people on the planet asking that question and, asking to be shown that and to be it, the world could change in a day.
Yeah. It's so amazing. It's like this attachment to, it's almost like the attachment to the wrong, like the trauma, drama, fear,
Mm-hmm.
upset, um, and being more willing to be right about that than
Yes.
than to be wrong about the kindness. And yet, even if you're wrong about the kindness, you will have lived a life of kindness. So show me where that's wrong. Like, there's
Yes.
still more ease and there's still more joy. There's still, such a different experience available. So it's like, okay, would we
Yes.
be willing to, to explore the energies of kindness, to, be a little wacky, and
Well, and choose it for you.
yeah,
Don't have to have people come with you.
yeah,
And that's been a really, really huge one. And that's still one that I'm working on myself, right? And I keep getting over and over, choose for you.
yeah,
Choose it for you. Even if no one else in the world chooses it, if you choose to be it, you have it.
you
Because
have
when
it.
you're being it, you're receiving it constantly.
Yeah,
You are it, right?
yeah,
And Nelson Mandela was a great example of that. He was like, no one can do anything to me, right? He's a man in prison for all of that, all of those years. And he did not let that reality lose his reality. He
yeah,
kept his reality. He continued to choose his reality no matter what was going on around him.
yeah,
And he didn't give up what he knew.
yeah,
Even in the face, even this reality tried really, really hard to kind of squash that out of him. So what if we don't have to wait for anyone else?
yeah,
Our partners, our families, our friends, our politics, the politicians, all of that. What if we can begin to choose it just for us? Um, and even if no one else chooses it. And I get that's a big ask. But I think it's, a worthy part of the conversation
yeah.
because so often we're like, well, I'll be kind if you'll be kind.
Mm.
If I know you're going to give me what I'm giving you, then I'll do it. But that's functioning from a space of scarcity. So here's also that sort of loop back to why it's so important to choose it for you first,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is if you're willing to choose it and be it and have it for you, you don't require anyone else to give it to you. Right? And that's where that push-pull comes in sometimes of like, all right, well, I'm going to do this for you, but I need it. So now we're going to create this little deal. You give it to me and I'll give it to you. And then it never works,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
What if you are the source of kindness for you?
Yeah.
And we have resources around us. This amazing planet that we live on, holy smokes, there is a level of kindness and generosity and space and of judgment available to us constantly for us in our bodies and any time. And that's, I ask, consciousness, all right, show me what is kindness. But for me, I also ask the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Now the planet's great. Volcanoes erupt, things change, things die, things are born. it's still functioning from kindness,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's still creating more. We live in a beautiful, benevolent, constantly gifting world. So, even if you can't always find that in the people around you, or, in what you see out in this reality, nature is always an amazing place you know, to just kind of tap into. Go sit next to a tree or go walk through a park and just notice there is a sense of relaxation with your body.
Mm-hmm.
And any of those hard places, just melt them, just kind of push those down, breathe it out, and consciously bring in even more. And, because sometimes we do need that added support.
Yeah.
And ask for more people who function from kindness to show up in your life. So I do want to put this out,
Yes.
right? We're having this conversation about asking for greater kindness, right? For you, for like this whole conversation. So when you do make a demand or ask, what the other part that shows up, so the kindness will show up, but also the things that are not kindness will show up too. The places where you're not willing to be kind, the energies you're not willing to receive that are difficult for you may also start showing up, because these are the places, this is where the work is,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is where you you get your bars run. You you use whatever tools you have. It's after you ask this question, whatever you need to know is going to show up. So a great question to use in this exploration is, what's right about this I'm not getting?
Mm-hmm.
And is this the change that I've been asking for? Showing up very differently. Because sometimes I'll ask, for kindness to show up, and everywhere I'm not willing to receive it shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't ask for kindness and keep those places where I'm unwilling to receive it. So first, I often see, the wall.
Everything coming up, right? And that's that thing of, everything's falling apart. It's like, and could it also be falling, those things that are no longer required, falling away, and are things
Mm-hmm.
falling together into what's now
Yes,
possible?
exactly. Which is another fantastic question: is what else is actually possible I've never considered with this?
Mm-hmm.
So, what else is actually possible we have never considered with kindness, right? What else is actually possible we have never considered with generosity? And what if we could begin to make that a personal journey, not just one in which we require other people to play with us in order to have it,
Yeah.
right? That happens. You can't help it,
Mm-hmm.
right? You start playing with people with all those energies once you
Yeah.
are it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, change means it's going to be different. So, I mean, we want change, but we don't
Yes.
want anything to be different. And, well,
Uh,
interesting.
That it is that I actually looked at that not too long ago and I went, I'm not always willing for it to be different. And I'm asking for a whole lot of change, and that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
not always bright.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what else is possible to choose now,
Beautiful.
right? So, how much kindness and a sense of generosity for you and for all of you listening to this, can you be, with yourself? And what if you can give yourself that generosity and kindness that you so seek to receive from others?
Yeah.
Because when you can be it and you don't require it to come from someone else, then, and you are the source of it, you are an endless resource for you. And then you can be this incredible resource in the world
Yeah.
for others.
Yes. Put on your safety belt first, people.
Have fun.
Yes.
Like, have fun. Like, we get, we're like, oh, kindness.
Yeah.
Oh, like kindness is being, it's like, no, right? It's like, what if you could relax and enjoy it? Like, there's a relaxation that comes with, with all of this. Be light about it, be easy about it.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
Yeah.
not supposed to be really hard work to be kind.
No.
Awesome. Okay, so
Not so much.
everyone officially has permission now, as though you needed it, but you all have official permission from the official permission club to go forth and have way more fun than you ever thought allowed or even possible.
Exactly. And you're willing to be, have those strange points of views that you have, be as weird and wacky as you really are, and be the craziest thing possible, or the wildest thing, which would be to not judge you
Yeah.
and have a space of kindness in the way that you are in your mind and in your heart and in your body. Because my goodness, the planet sure does require it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah, gosh. And
Oh,
if, I hope that this conversation, contributes to, more of that. I know it's contributing to me.
yes. Yes.
Mm.
Um, what else is possible?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
All the power in the universe, the little words, not so much. So,
Exactly. Well,
what
that's
else
the
is
beauty of
possible?
even just being willing to have a conversation about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it adds to it.
Yeah.
The more that we're talking about how terrible things are and the
Yeah.
horrible state of the world and
Yeah.
all of that,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
all right, we can be aware of all of the things that are going on, but
Yeah.
what else
Yeah.
can we be talking about?
Yeah.
And you know, what else can we be putting out and creating in the world?
Yes.
And it's not to say don't have conversations about the things going on. People do sometimes say like, well, that's not kind or that's not positive. It's like, okay, what if we can actually just like kind of relax and not take things quite so seriously?
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah. And
be easy.
there's also so there were different moments throughout our conversation where I could was perceiving you guys watching, and and I just wanted to also just invite when when you're a part of this conversation, or if you go back and listen to the replay, and if you recognize sensations in your body that are like an enthusiasm, or like a yes, like oh yes, this. I would just really invite you, because there were several times where just became very aware that there were bodies that were receiving a lot of information, and I just would invite you to really receive that gift as well. Um, and another place where we can be kind with our bodies, and really what is this information that my body is inviting me to. And when that enthusiasm, when that joyous, when that yes energy is coming through, just get what that is for you, so that as you go out in the world, this potentially theoretical type conversation can really be brought into your physical reality as well, so that when you find those things that that also elicit that enthusiasm, that pull, that space, right, that you can tune in and dial it up and amplify, and there may just be capacity there for you also that maybe you're not even aware of yet. So just wanted to put that little piece in there for those of you that that relates to, or who that is for. And Melanie, this has been amazing. We had a little bit of a late start, but we are coming to the end of the hour. So is there anything to close that you would like to send everyone off into the world with, as some closing words?
Well, one of the things that's amazed me most about choosing to engage in the world from a space of kindness is that you never know who you're going to touch. you never know the ripples, that are going to go out and create something greater in the world. So I just would like to acknowledge everyone who's listening to this. If you have been listening to this, you already function from more of a space of kindness and generosity than you may have actually been acknowledging. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here listening to it with us right now. And just know that who you already are and the space that you have been being and the choices that you have made and that you are in the space of the energy of kindness and generosity. I would have you just take a moment to maybe drop your barriers and allow yourself to receive the change and the contribution that you have been throughout your life and that you are now. And what else is possible and what else can we be adding and including? But I think acknowledging first, the kindness that you actually already are and that you already be, that maybe you have not allowed yourself to fully, truly acknowledge, is a huge part of actually bringing more of it into your life. So thank you for taking the time today. And just like you were saying, Rebecca, just in the conversation, there is an energy that's running through the conversation. So also, what have you actually received that isn't cognitive, that you could actually allow even in more? And also, if there are more parts of this conversation you want to dive into more, or you have comments or questions or aha moments, or think something is terrible, like, comment, on the video, reach out to me. You can contact me through my website, contact Rebecca. Because for me, this is one of the funnest things. It brings me a lot of joy to have these conversations with amazing people like you, Rebecca, and all of you out there listening. And in participating with us.
Yeah.
So what else is possible? And maybe I'm crazy, but I know there is a different reality possible that that functions from more kindness.
Yes.
So here we go.
Awesome. And yes, I love the invitation, and we will make sure that all the links so that you can easily find Melanie will be in the show notes. So the link to the YouTube video with the complete show notes and all the links in it will be posted on the Facebook page tomorrow morning. So for those of you who are watching live, that will be available starting tomorrow on the Art of Creation Show Facebook page. So thank you again, Melanie, so much for joining us today. Thank you, everyone live. It has been amazing having you here with us today. The energy of this call has been a true gift for me. So I thank all of you who've contributed to it today and in the future. And please, if you do find these episodes of interest and of value, if they contribute to you, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the Facebook page, give the video a thumbs up, and anything else. You can maybe even share it with a friend. Or 5 million. So
Wouldn't that be amazing?
what would it take? Let's get, kindness. What if that could be the new black? Let's try it. See what shows up.
Black.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for being here. Keep choosing. Have way more fun than you ever thought possible. And I was going to say, I wonder what we'll discover next. I'll see you next week. And that's not true. I'm going on summer break. So we will be back with new episodes in September. So have a great summer. And man, we have over 2 years worth of amazing, amazing guests. So if you're just finding this now and wondering, oh my goodness, what am I going to do for the next several weeks? You've got a lot of yummy and juicy stuff to dig into until September. So I invite you to all of that. And then I wonder what we'll discover next. Thank you guys for playing. We'll see you next time.